Dr. Carmen Smith, and today I feel really celebratory because I've been teaching metaphysics and spirituality for about 26 years. And I just wanted to take the time to acknowledge that I'm really blessed and I'm really happy about that. And I'm really joyful to be sharing it with you. In this video that you're about to see, I'm talking about fear, and I'm talking about the fear frequency and the love frequency. And I always use the map of consciousness, which was developed by David Hawkins. And if you'd like to read his book, Power versus Force, it will give you an insight into how frequency can dictate our whole reality. So if you're vibrating with fear, anger, shame, and guilt, it will show up in your life and it will show up in the collective. And in this video, I explain that connection. Once you get it, it can change your life, revolutionize the way you see your emotions, which is energy in motion. So I want you to enjoy this video, but I also need to tell you something else that happens in this video. As I'm talking and I'm explaining this to the congregation, I'm doing it online, and I get this voice feeling, knowing that I need to explain that if you have not done some inner work, it's going to sound really woo-woo. So what happens when you're trying to explain spirituality and when gurus try to explain this, or Jesus or Buddha, if you're not vibrating at a certain frequency, it will sound like gibberish, or it will sound as if it's coming from fear, but you're actually projecting your own fear. It's a thing. So in the middle of me explaining this, I'm feeling that I need to back up and say that these are higher teachings. These are things that you can really understand once you've done your forgiveness work, where you've forgiven yourself, where you've forgiven others, because that takes you out of the victim mode. And when you're in the victim mode, all of this sounds like the Peanuts cartoon, like the teachers would be wah 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 wah. So I realized that. So that's why in this video I try to explain that there's some work that needs to be done before you can even tackle or understand or even embody these frequencies. Love you. Topic today is darkness is merely the absence of light. And this is a famous quote by Albert Einstein, the physicist. But my quote comes from Marianne Williamson because she takes it a step further, more likely that we're more likely to understand it in the context of science of mind. She says, darkness is merely the absence of light, and fear is merely the absence of love. If we want to rid ourselves of fear, we cannot fight it, but must replace it with love. And this is a journey to understand and live by this quote, because our natural instinct is to fight it. As a matter of fact, fear is and can be a provoker of our emotions. And so when we learn that we can overcome these lower frequency emotions of fear, anger, shame, guilt, when we begin to master that and recognize that our true power comes from the higher frequencies, which are associated with light, and those frequencies are love, joy, peace, power, and enlightenment. And so our whole journey is about going up those chakras, if you will, or increasing our energy vibration to the higher levels.
But we must understand that this matrix is fear-based. It is a provoker. And once we come up higher in these consciousness, we can be on an eagle's perch, looking at the matrix from outside of it and seeing the chaos that's generated from the lower frequencies. This is our journey. And I want to also preface this teaching by saying that this is a higher level teaching, meaning that when you go to college, you'll notice that there are courses that say, oh, there's a prerequisite. Darn it, I've got to take addition and subtraction before I can do algebra. Oh, I've got to do Algebra 101 before I can do calculus. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're a beginner, none of you are, but if you're a beginner, then these teachings won't make sense. And it won't be on the frequency of victimization, which a lot of people are tuned into that frequency. And so higher levels of frequency, they don't understand, they don't get, it's woo-woo. And we've heard that before. So it's not going to connect with everybody. But I know that in my spiritual journey, when I would tune into a teacher and they would be talking about forgiveness, I would be like, okay, I've got that. Let's move on. So this is a higher level teaching. And it's only just to say that if you have trauma from childhood, that needs to be dealt with. That's going to still keep you in that victim lower frequency. Let's deal with that. I've made several videos on forgiveness, releasing your trauma, working on that inner work. So I'm assuming and knowing for a fact that everyone here has done inner work. We're ready for some other teaching. We're ready for those graduate level teachings that let us know we're on the right track, but maybe nobody's talking about it. So first of all, I want to say that I'm going to give you a visual and an example when I'm talking about these frequencies. That helps because we can use our imagination a lot of the times, and a lot of the times when we're reading something, it can seem pretty abstract. But I want to give you a visual because I'm a visual learner too. And so this is a visual chart that I'm going to show you that has to do with frequencies. Now this chart that you're looking at was done by Mr. Hawkins, and he has done a whole bunch of lifetime work on frequencies, what they mean and what you can derive from them. So as you can see on this chart, anything below courage is a lower frequency. This is going to cause what? Chaos, destruction, and you don't have to look very far to see how that manifests itself in this world. Or you just turn on the TV, or maybe you have a neighbor, or maybe in your family, or maybe in yourself. You can see when these things, emotions pop up in others or in yourself, they can provoke an energy that will dictate what your next experience will be. As a matter of fact, Lynn, I think earlier in the meditation you were talking about our thoughts broadcast our next experience. So our thoughts are major broadcasters. What are they broadcasting? Well, if they're broadcasting the lower frequencies, it's going to determine what your next experience is going to be. This is how the universe reflects back to us what we've been thinking, what we've been frequencing with, what our tone is. And so this is a really great learning tool that the universe has provided to us as long as we're awake enough, aware enough to change our frequency, come up higher and create from there. Now that's why I said there are prerequisites to this, because if you're still stuck in shame, guilt, fear, you don't understand that you have the power to create something different. That victimization keeps you stuck in lower frequencies. And what happens with that? You contribute to the collective frequency. So you may say, oh, I'm not into all of that chaos and blah, blah, blah. But if you are generating that within your thoughts, within your family, within your friends, you are contributing to the collective lower frequency vibrations of anger, shame, guilt, all of that. And then it's manifested and reflected back. And if we're not learning to go within ourselves and say, what are some of the things that I can do to come up higher in those frequencies, then we can stay stuck in that victimization. So here's the good news. When you've been doing your inner work and you've been studying science of mind, and you have your practices in place and you are embodying those teachings, not just talking about them, not just reading a book or going to a webinar, but you're actually becoming the love of Christ. You're actually becoming and birthing the Christ within yourself. Then you're up in those higher frequencies of love, joy, acceptance, peace. And what can you do with that? Well, off to the side, you'll notice that that's a creative energy. We create from those energies. So God is love. God is the master creator. And created who? Created us. From what? Love frequency. So we are love frequency in our DNA. What can we do with that? We can create the next moment that we experience. We can create the world we want to live in. We can take all of that love and creativity, put it into the collective, because we're broadcasters,